Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, the podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham, I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother, I was Cornel and Watch My Chops, I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Show isn't about you.
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. My guest today is a multi-talented impressionist, actor, singer, and he has been working since the mid-80s in television and film, and also theatre, being in the original run of The 39 Steps at the Tricycle Theatre and the Criterion Theatre. He was in Stones in His Pockets in the West End, but he's also been in hundreds of cartoons. He's been in a lot of television and does a lot of audiobooks.
I think we've got enough there.
And it's the award-winning and fabulous Rupert Degas, who spoke to me from his home and his voice booth at home in the land of killer domestic spiders and duckbill platypuses, where he moved in 2014. Okay, recording. So I'm talking to Rupert Degas. And it's Degas, not Degas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me years ago that Degas is the correct one. Degas is a Parisian affectation, is that?
Degas is the Parisian affectation, yes.
That's right, yes. So it's not... Yeah, so the painter was basically being pretentious.
Yes, and French.
And French.
And I'm Tommy.
Yes, so my guest this is Rupert Degas. You started as an actor... proper in theatre. I remember seeing you in the first run of 39 Steps.
That's right. Yes, at the Criterion. Yes.
Yes. And I also remember you in Stones in Their Pockets.
Stones in His Pockets, yes, at the Duke of York's and the New Ambassadors. God, those are the days.
Yes, I know. Theatre. And to give an in to people listening to this, I think you'll be probably best known in this country for doing a lot of voices on Bob the Builder.
Yes, I did
right?
that for 10 years. I was in Bob the Builder.
10 years,
yes.
Good Lord. So who did you do? Let's give a list and then people will know who you were.
The main character I did was Scrambler.
You know, the quad bike, yeah, wicked. He was a little blue quad bike.
He was the main one I did. That's the one that comes up a lot. But there were four of us in the cast, so we divvied up. It wasn't like Thomas, where there were many of us in the cast. Bob was quite unusual that way. There were just four of us, but they had guests come in every now and then, like Richard Bryars and June Whitfield and people like that. But basically, there were just four of us until they brought in. I think Emma Tate came in at the last few seasons. And we're cast of five, and Colin did a couple of seasons, Colin McFarlane. But essentially it was just four of us. So the roles were always divvied up at the beginning of each session, and it was just a case of just divvying up the roles. And Scrambler happened to be the one that I was my kind of main one, but I played heaps and heaps of characters.
What other things would you say you were known for over here, particularly? Is that the main...
Well, I did a series called Socky Chooks.
Oh yes,
yes, with Paul Kay. He played the villain, and I was his sort of henchman.
Baba with the big gorilla.
I did a series called Robotboy. We did 4 seasons of Robotboy. That was great fun. I played the main villain's henchman, who was a big sort of Hispanic sort of, a very questionable gender, and you didn't really know, darling. I think I just copied some character from Big Brother at the time. I did a series called Lucky Fred. That did 2 seasons as well, again with Paul Kay. Thomas and Friends, obviously. I was in that.
Of course you were in Thomas.
I did Thomas.
Yes.
I wasn't in it long. I think I was in it for about 3 years. I think I did about 3 seasons. I think you and I played Den and Dart, and I did Fiery Flynn and Bertie the Boss. I remember doing as Alan Bennett, and I think you now do that, I think.
I do that, yeah.
And, I think I did Diesel 10. I think many of us did Diesel 10.
And your intro, what didn't aim to do voice actor? Is that, or am I right there? Did you aim to do this as a living, or were you an actor?
I was an actor and fell into dubbing. I fell into ADR, so I was one of those voices that would go in and do the English versions of European television and films. And I worked with a chap called Robert Rietti. He was the man of 1,000 voices, and he was my mentor. I was his apprentice, I suppose you could say. And I used to work for him at Worldwide in St Anne's Court and Warwick Sound in Wardour Street and Magmasters. And I'd go in there and he'd say, "Now, Rupert, could you go up to the mic and give me voice 23B for this, Prince, or voice 16F for this?" And I learnt my trade on the band, using the Delane Lee band, where you'd see this acetate strip with the words going under the screen with a cursor, and you'd sort of follow. I mean, it was very crude, but it worked. It was brilliant, and you could.
It's extraordinarily complicated, that machine.
Yeah,
I remember.
And you had wipes, you had Chinograph wipes because everything was on film, and you had beeps in your headphones. You beep beep beep. But it was a really good grounding in syncing, in lip syncing, because you had to then. There was no room to say, what's my motivation, darling? You had to follow the performance of somebody else and use their rhythm and their tone. And having a musical background really helped with that. And it was my grounding, it was my learning, it was my school for being an actor, was being an ADR voice actor. And then from that I fell into sort of a loop group thing, a crowd stuff, going and doing movies and TV shows with like I did GoldenEye and Bridget Jones and 12 Monkeys and I had all sorts of films, and it was amazing. I'm sitting there in the studio with Terry Gilliam and Martin Campbell and etc. doing films. I still get checks for Pride and Prejudice that I did with that was the Colin Firth, Jennifer Ailey one, and I'm like in every episode going on walk on or just sort of random voices of farmers and things, and I still get £6.72p from Equity for a sale to a DVD sale to Latvia. I actually really loved being in dark studios in Soho. There was a real sense of you're just on all the time. You're working. It was a hard day's work. You were because you're playing so many parts. And then when I went and did a TV job, and you're sitting around all day in costume, waiting for your bit, and you go and do your one line, and I'm thinking, actually, I like to be busy. When you're on a film set, you're doing nothing. It's hurry up and wait
most of the time. Yes,
and then when something comes out, like I was in things like EastEnders and Holby City and The Bill and all these kind of shows on television, then they come out on TV and you call your mum and your girlfriend or whatever, and they've cut you out. You're like, they cut my part. So I just thought, I like this voicing gig. It's more rewarding. It's busy. It was a real community. I mean, you and I met doing it, and there's a real camaraderie, and we're like a team of sort of fellow VOs. It's an unknown profession, and we all kind of wander around Soho, going from studio to studio, doing an advert or a promo or an animation or a radio ad or a video game or an audio book or a corporate video. But no one knows who we are. But we all know each other, and there were many, many pubs in Soho where we'd all meet between jobs, and it was great fun. I loved doing the voicing, and then now in Australia, I still do it. It's fantastic. There's a series I do called Kangaroo Beach, which is I think in England I do a Bluey, which is a massive hit worldwide.
Oh, Bluey's huge. Yes,
I'm in that. I'm not a series regular, but I'm a sort of an occasional guest in that. The feature film Peter Rabbit 2, which was great fun. But yeah, so I still do a lot of animation here in Australia.
But this is now just to clarify, you're doing all this from home now?
Yes, I work from the studio I'm speaking to you now. Even ADR, I still do dubbing on films. I still do stuff like that, and I do it remotely.
So do you miss the studio?
No. I think if I was in London, I would miss the camaraderie. Yes. As I said, that we used to have. But even then, we were in our 20s and 30s, and now that we're in our 50s, I don't know, that the commute into work is such a bore. It's such a chore in London. One of the reasons I left London and moved to Australia was I was absolutely up to my hind teeth in public transport. And so I got my home studio, and I thought, why can't I do this from home. There's
Somewhere
no
else,
reason for me to get on a train from Surbiton into Waterloo and then go through security to get to a thing, and ITV or BBC or whatever, and go behind the mic and they go and you say, Tuesday. And then you take your headphones off and you go all the way back home again. And I thought, this isn't productive. It's taken me 3 hours of my day to say one word. And then, hey, presto, we had this wonderful gift of a pandemic. And suddenly everybody was working from home. And I thought, finally, the world has caught up to what I'd been saying for years. And I haven't looked back. Look, I've recently done a filming a TV series called The Artful Dodger, and I have to say it was really good fun to be on a set with a crew and get into costume, and it was all 19th century, or it was like 1850s Sydney, and wigs and makeup and extras and cameras, and I thought, this is great fun. And of course, having not been among 200 people for so long, I caught a bloody awful cold, and I've had the lurgy for a week because I must have caught something, because my immune system is like in my own box now. And I had to take the train into Sydney, and I probably caught it on the train because it's a good 2.5 hour train journey. So do I miss it? Yes and no, but I think on balance, no, I'm quite happy staying at home.
Fair enough. Because one of the reasons to interview you is how things have changed, and this is partly why I'm doing this podcast at all, is how everything's in flux. And you've been putting stuff up online, I've seen about this. And are you optimistic, pessimistic? Are you hopeful or not about what's going on? Is this with AI and all of that? Look,
I'm slightly on the fence about it all at the moment, because I don't think any of us know what's going on. It's the Wild West out there. But as Donald Rumsfeld said, there are known knowns and unknown unknowns and unknown knowns. And I think that for me, one of the known knowns is that human beings, will crave authenticity, and they will crave human nuance. And I do think AI, wonderful a tool as it is, and it is a wonderful tool. I use it. I use it to help me write. I use it to help write emails. I use it instead of Google now. I use it to ask questions. It's much quicker. I have conversations with it. But I don't think it will replace artists. It can't. They're trying to. At the moment, it's a shiny new thing, and people are doing all these fun things like the Studio Ghibli and the thing. And I actually think it's really rather boring. And there is going to come this point where people are going to go, I just know that's AI because I'm not feeling anything. And I think those of us who haven't hung up our dancing boots and are still working in this industry, if we have longevity and we have versatility and we have talent and we have stamina, I think there will always be an audience. There will always be a call for actors to work. A lot of jobs are going to go to AI, and a lot of work is going to be lost in our profession to AI, but not all of it. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be maybe more of a wedge at the top where really good quality stuff is going to be done by humans, and only really the best. I think it's going to sort the boys out from the men. It's going to sort the wheat out from the chaff, the curds from the whey, and all that stuff. I think what you're going to find is that this very oversaturated industry that we've had for the last 20 years, like everybody wants to get into voiceovers and all that, I think that's going to go away. I think the bottom of the pyramid, the 50% bottom of the pyramid, I think they're done, because AI can sound like cashier number 5, please hold. AI can do all that. So all that work's gone. But when you want anything that's
character-based,
story-based, I think we're going to be absolutely fine. But where my positivity comes in, Keith, is that I think it's going to create a whole new slew of creative projects and work. But I think there's a bit of a reverse bell curve happening at the moment. I think we're in a state of flux. We don't know what we're doing, but I think we'll come out of it better and stronger. But I think it behooves us all to realize that AI is a tool. It's here to stay. There's no point fighting it. There's no point being afraid of it. But what we have to do is use it to increase our workflow and maybe increase productivity, but not use it to go, look at the picture I've done. No, paint. Look at the voice I've done. No, use a proper voice. That's where I think the positive side comes in. And that, to me, is a known. I really do think that we know for sure that humans, will not put up with ones and zeros to give them their entertainment. I mean, music done by AI is shit. Films, scripts. I mean, you can tell. I mean, it's all fun and golden and, isn't it clever? But at the end of the day, it's just all going to merge and meld into one boring sort of
Well, it can't.
pot.
You see, I can't see how it can be creative because it's simply borrowing. It's taking from what's gone before and rejigging it. That's all it's doing, surely. It's making stuff up from existing material.
Well, there is an argument
entirely...
that says that's what we do. I mean, that's what our
to
brains
an extent.
do to an extent. What I think was it James Joyce? Someone said, "Good writers borrow, great writers steal." I mean, every Timothy Chalamet copies Sean Penn. Sean Penn copies Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro copied Marlon Brando. Everybody. In some
I
way.
agree, and also you and I mean, we do impressions.
We do impressions,
and
yeah.
And a lot of our characters are based on other people.
Yeah.
But surely the difference with computers is that computers aren't human. They haven't had a human life or experience.
Yeah.
And what you add is the stuff you've got in the back of your head that no one else has.
Yeah.
And the way you twist it in your brain is in a way that a computer cannot possibly do that.
Well, Malcolm Gladwell calls it thin slicing. I don't know if you've
Right.
read Blink. It's a really good book.
I did, yeah.
So he refers to the fact that our brains, we might not be able to do calculations as fast as a computer, but there is something innately instinctive about the way we work, where our level of nuance is so microcosmically acute. There's no way a computer or AI can do that. AI can, recite. It can write all 37 of Shakespeare's plays, in 5 seconds. Fantastic, great, good on you. That means I don't have to hire someone to type them out. But it's not going to have, as you say, life experience in order to come up with that nuance. So I'm not worried about it. But I'm optimistically cautious. I'm still looking for other things to do with my life. I'm not throwing all my eggs into this basket. I'm getting involved with the men's health space, the ketovore carnivore space, and I'm finding a new community and a new joy in that. But I'm keeping my options open, hoping for the best. But I'm sort of preparing, not preparing for the worst, but I'm preparing for the fact that
allowing for it.
Yeah.
That's a good summary. I mean, it's more optimistic than I thought you'd be. So that's pretty good because I was expecting a pretty depressing thing from you. But
I think once upon a time I would have been that sort of Debbie Downer, depressing. But there's no point being depressed. You just it's bad for your own system. You've got to just think. Okay, well, this is the scribes must have been really angry when the printing press came along,
yes. Well, we remember, and we're old enough to remember when there was a big thing with the printing presses and the print unions in the 80s,
newspapers.
90s when it completely changed.
Yeah.
And there was a massive backlash at that.
Yeah.
And we were all looking at the print unions, going, why don't you just accept it? And instead of fighting to keep your old stuff, move on to the new stuff. They could have done it.
Yeah.
Yes, they could have done it.
Now it's our turn. I used to narrate audiobooks, and I remember being in a studio and there'd be me behind the mic, there'd be the sound engineer who'd be operating Pro Tools or whatever the DAW they were using. There was a producer and there was a director, and then the publisher would pop in every now and then. So it sometimes took 4 or 5 of us. Now when I do an audiobook, I record it myself at home on Pro Tools. I'm editing as I go along. I'm directing myself. I'm monitoring my own performance and my own, So that's 4 jobs gone already. That's life, man.
Yes.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, I'd hire a writer to help write with me. Now I just use AI to help write my stuff.
So is the industry in Australia generally good, bad, indifferent, falling apart, coming apart, doing something else, or I've no idea because I'm obviously here, So.
Well, I think the industry in Australia is pretty much the same as it is in the UK. I mean, I don't want to get too political, but I have spent my career doing accents and doing voices, and I'm now told that doing an accent is offensive, or that they want an indigenous voice or an ethnic voice, and I'm like, it's a voice. But they've made it now this kind of, instead of this meritocracy where you go and get an audition and the best person gets the job, it's now sort of like tick box casting. Like the straight white guy is now sort of the villain or the idiot, and I've noticed that in advertising as well. At doing voiceovers, I was the voice of Guinness for 7 years here in Australia, and they just decided 2 years ago we need a genuine Irish person, even though I've been doing it for 7 years and my Irish accent is spot on, brilliant, and any Irish person would not know I wasn't Irish. But for some reason, someone said, no, we have to have authenticity, and you go, it's absurd. So that's happening here. And anyway, I won't dwell on it, but it makes me rather jacked off.
Okay, these are classic questions. Alan Partridge questions.
Aha!
Aha! Yes. I've got to ask, have you got one thing you've done which you loved the most, or is everything sort of, do you just love the job? It's probably impossible to answer.
It's really impossible to answer because some of the voice jobs I've done, my most favourite thing about them was the paycheck. And other voice jobs I've done, I've thought, you're not paying me enough, and I'm not, and I don't, and this script is terrible. Get me out of here. And here's cantankerous, curmudgeonly Rupert coming into the studio. What's he going to complain about today? But those days are gone. I was, I've grown up.
Yes.
No, my favourite job I've ever done was Stones in His Pockets. It was in the West End. I mean, if I, my rocking chair test, as my wife calls it, when you're at the end of your life, do you have any?
What's the thing? Yeah.
What's the thing, or what do you have any regrets? What are you really glad you've done? That would be Stones in His Pockets. Doing that show, I would. That was, to me, amazing, doing a two-hander in the West End.
I remember seeing it. It was extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. It's beautifully written,
yes.
And it was a privilege to be in it. And I pretended to be Irish, and I convinced all the Irish producers and directors and writers, and they had no idea I was English, and I didn't tell them until the first day of rehearsal. And so I feel vindicated, and that's acting, baby. So most rewarding kind of voice work. Well, I suppose. Skatoony, which was a thing I did with Lewis MacLeod for Cartoon Network. It started as an interstitial little promo kind of thing where I was playing this character called Chud Chudders, who was
he was a quiz show host. He had these buck teeth, and he had these big glasses, and he had this catchphrase: "Has anyone seen my glasses?"
And Lewis played the Earl, who was like, "Yeah, hey Chud, what's up, Chud?" And it developed into this half-hour-long Celebrity Squares game show with children, real children, and tunes. And Lewis and I did all the voices. So over 4 seasons, Lewis and I played something over like 200 characters.
Wow.
And we would just sit opposite each other at Wild Tracks in Greek Street. We were given these scripts by James Fox and Kevin Narayanan, and we'd, Lewis is like, and when he and I are together, it's just fireworks. It really is, because we have this love and respect for each other, and we actually want to entertain each other and show off in front of each other. So we're always not trying to outdo each other, but we're trying to. It's like Nadal and Federer playing tennis. We just each want to throw each other really good serves and get really good returns back. And we could improvise, because it was a really irreverent show. It was, when you look back at it now, they'd never make it now. You had gorillas chucking shit at kids, called Who Flung Dung, because this gorilla called Who Flung Dung, and then they'd throw brown paint all over the kids, and they were like little. It was crazy. It was like sort of. That show. What was that show when we were kids?
Run Around,
and it was sort of wacky, crazy, high octane. But Lewis and I played every part between us. So of course, you're just going, this is the best job in the world because I have total autonomy and we can just do any impression, any voice. So I think that was my favourite animated show I ever did was Skatoony.
Okay, well, that's a nice, solid answer.
Yeah.
Very good.
For the sheer joy of it, of working with Lewis as well.
Oh God, he's great.
It was just, it was magic. Yeah. It was absolutely magic, and we're great buddies, and it was great working with a mate. Talking about the corporate thing, I remember when Bob the Builder, I did Bob the Builder for a decade, and the last series of Bob the Builder, something happened. The top brass, the executives changed, and the new executives came in from America, and it suddenly became a property. It's like a a thing that they can exploit and squeeze as much blood out of as you can. And suddenly the scripts went from being these very sweet and lovely sort of stories for children about so they could learn, and there were story arcs, and it all became about selling merchandise and selling toys. And every script, it was obvious that it was about toys and merchandising. And it was the last series we did, and it wasn't. And it was clearly because the show had lost its heart, and the very last series of Bob the Builder had lost its heart, and all of us knew it. I mean, you can talk to Rob about it. We were just sitting in the studio going, the joy's gone because it's now become this multi-million-dollar property that they want to exploit. And I just think that's a shame. They're doing it to a lot now. They're doing it to a lot of things. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep things need to keep their heart and their soul. And that's Bob the Builder used to be very, very sweet. And in the end, it was not.
Would you want to start out now doing this?
This is what I said on LinkedIn the other day. I said, if you were young now, would you want to go into the entertainment industry? I did a masterclass at my old school in Clapham when I was back in the UK a few years ago. They invited me back to teach the drama scholars for a 2-hour masterclass, and they were all sitting there, all aged between 14 and 17. There must have been 50 of them. And I asked them all, I said, put up your hands if you want to be famous. And they, all the hands went up.
Yeah.
And then I said, put up your hands if you want to do theatre and you want to learn scenes and you want to do work and you want to learn about improvisation and you want to learn about singing. And all the hands started going down. Nobody, not one of them, wanted to put in any work. They all thought it would just come to them like, I just want to be famous. Well, if you want to be famous, go on TikTok, because which I despise, because it's just, I think it's just disgusting how we now are celebrating inane, stupid, rude, crude behavior, and we're sort of punishing talent now. We're punishing hard work, and we're celebrating idiocy. If I was young, I probably wouldn't care, because it would all be reflecting the current zeitgeist anyway.
You haven't got anything. Well, there's nothing to compare it to when you're young. That's the other thing. I look at. Okay, let's think about it from our age. If I could go back and work and be an actor in Hollywood in the 1940s and 50s, I'd love to do that. And I would probably do quite well. Yes.
Now I couldn't get arrested.
Yes.
London in the 80s. I mean, thank God I was there at the end of the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, we were, weren't we?
Yeah, but in the early 80s, the heyday of advertising, can you imagine how awesome that must have been to have just been doing all these ads? And I was there at the tail end of it, thank God, because it was great training. But even the British film industry in the 60s, I would have loved to have worked with, the Brian Forbeses and of this world, and the Lindsay Andersons, and now everything is controlled by corporations, because every production house is owned by a bigger conglomerate, and that conglomerate's owned by a bigger one, and eventually you have to pay the piper, and it's all about marketing, and it's all about advertising and product placement. And I think we've lost our way in our industry. So would I want to work in this industry now knowing what I know? No, I wouldn't. But
if you were young...
If I was young, I probably would.
Yeah.
Well, I would, yeah.
Yeah.
When we used to do animation, maybe it's still like this now, but certainly I would go into the studio and I would have my script on the podium. I'd be behind the mic. I would sort of physicalize behind the mic and sort of act out the scene. And I would give maybe an ABC for each line. I would do each line and give the producers 3 options. And I'd go off script and I'd improvise and I'd add funny bits myself. And we'd have a real sense in the room of being creative and creating something. But now it's like, oh, you can't change a word because that has to go through the writer, and the writer has to get approval from the lawyer. And so if you're going into a job with one arm tied behind your back, you're not giving of your best. And then you want to change you want to do a character voice. And they go, oh, we'll probably just AI. Just do it in a normal. I've been told this. Just read it in your normal voice, and then we'll put that into Mid-Journey, and we'll get an AI voice. I said, please don't. Just I can do it.
Seriously, that hasn't happened to me yet. But
not for an animation, for a radio ad, for a radio commercial.
A radio commercial.
But I'm like, why don't you say, oh well, because we want to play with the tech, we want to have our toys. But I take the piss out of it though, Keith. I mean, I don't sit there like a wallflower and go, I'll just take the money. I'm like, oh, you're not doing that, are you? Come on. And then, I've always been quite vocal, as you know. I've never been shy in coming forward.
I've never noticed that, Rupert.
And I just think, if I fundamentally think something is wrong, I'll speak up about it. And if I get, if I lose a job over it, then so be it. I don't really care. But I need to. I mean, you can pick your battles, obviously, and you've got to read the room. But with this AI thing, you just think, really? Stop it. I just got my first smartphone 6 weeks ago.
Seriously?
First ever smartphone.
Wow.
So I've had a Nokia dumb phone the whole time, and I recently moved from Sydney to the country, to the Southern Highlands, and we're in this black spot where there's no phone signal. So I called my internet service provider, and they said, I'll just use Wi-Fi calling. And I said, on a Nokia? I don't think so. Right. So I had to get a smartphone. Right. But I've had an iPad for a couple of years, and I started, and it was about 3 years ago that my wife and a couple of friends of mine said, you really should be on Instagram. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, not doing it. And they said, yeah, you really should do it. So I started posting a few things. And I said, what am I doing? And they went, look, it's about digital footprint. It's about search engine optimization. It's about the algorithm. It's about, getting followers. And if you get one job out, if one person follows you and they happen to be a director they might hire you, it'll all be worth it. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's the whole thing. Maybe Spielberg will call tomorrow. But what's happened is that I was posting stuff about my career, about audiobooks and voiceovers and stuff, and of course nobody gave a toss. I might as well have just been posting pictures of my dinner and going, oh, look what I ate. But since I started doing the carnivore content, using my characters and my impressions, I've suddenly found this creativity through Instagram, and then I'm putting them on YouTube as well. And I'm now learning how to use Instagram and how to use YouTube, and then how to use CapCut and how to use my iPad and how to use editing software and stuff like that. So I've recently taken a whole load of clips from movies and I've revoiced them in Pro Tools, and I'm learning how to use Pro Tools, because I've been using Pro Tools for years, but only just recording and editing and sending files.
Yeah.
But now what I'm doing is I'm bringing in music and effects and ambient tracks, and I'm adjusting those things. I'm putting in room ambience and room tone. I'm going, oh my God, this is so much fun. And I'm doing it just for the love of it, because it's not monetized. But I'm putting these things out into the universe. I put a thing out yesterday, and it's already had, I think, 100,000 views already in 24 hours. And it's just me doing John Harvey Kellogg, in a white suit, and all black and white with a kind of thing, just talking about, Kellogg's cornflakes and how bad they are and all this, and it's had 100,000 views already. And you go, this is insane. But yeah, and so it's great fun to sort of stretch the muscles, the acting muscles, and do the voices and do the stuff that I used to do regularly and get paid for, but now because of the reasons we discussed earlier isn't happening anymore. So now I'm continuing to do all the stuff I enjoy, but I'm doing it for me, and I'm writing the content myself, and I'm producing it myself, and I'm putting it out there. It's not making any money, but it is actually I'm gaining a whole new community and having really interesting and meeting people from all over the world who like what I do, and then I follow them. And So I'm finally kind of twigging that actually social media, if done correctly, if done positively with love, is actually really good. And it was something I never thought I'd do, Keith. But it gives me joy because I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying...
You're also not trying to be famous.
No, exactly. I'm not trying to go, look at me, look at me. I'm going, hey, I'm in my 50s. I've achieved a lot. I have these skills with voices and stuff, and I want to show off a bit, and I want to say, hey, look what I can do. But in a kind of a fun way, not a look at me way. It's almost like because it's the message is eat meat and eat animal proteins and eat animal fats and you'll have health. But outside of that, everybody, all the carnivore content creators on Instagram are all, posting stuff about food and health and being at the gym or, supermarket shaming or reading ingredients, which is all great. But I've kind of filled this little hole because I think I'm the only actor / impressionist / voice person in the space. So I'm like, right, well, I'm going to kind of merge the two together. And I'm having tremendous fun doing it. Okay. I'm having tremendous fun doing it.
Okay. Well, I guess the lesson is it's never too late.
It's never too late.
And never too late. And it's always positive. Be positive. Try and get something good out of this.
I think you have to. Well,
great.
Like we said earlier about the AI, you've got to be positive because every coin has two sides. Every cloud. I'll tell you this for a fact, Keith, and I know this for a fact, that casting directors and directors, when they call agents for casting, they want to know how many followers.
Yeah, I know.
You have. It's the only way to get followers. I think the mask has come off. You're talking about Olivier and Peter Sellers and people like that. They were famous because their jobs, because of what they did for a living. They ran the National Theatre or they were a film star, whatever it was, But now, because it's about how many followers you have on social media, what you have to do is, and I disagree with this, but what you have to do is let the public in to your private life. If you're a big film star, there's nothing better than let's show this film star wearing Ugg boots and tracky dacks going to M&S for their sandwich, looking like they've just got out of bed and having paps follow them. That's all manipulated. And that was what it was in the 90s and 2000s. And then now with social media, it's actually I can film myself on my phone. I think what's happened is famous people have become far too accessible. The mystique has gone. The mystery's gone. It's like the Wizard of Oz when they pull back the curtain. There's something about fame. If you're a film star, there should be a certain amount. There should be an oblique kind of mystery. When you keep that distance, a healthy distance.
It's not healthy to keep on telling everybody everything.
No.
It's just, no.
I think the whole thing is just a house of cards, isn't it? It just... I am finding it quite hard to keep neutral on this because it's now personal. Nobody knows my opinion on things that are going on in geopolitics. It's nobody's business where I vote or who I vote for or what my opinion is on certain things, and I don't discuss it with people in the industry. But if you're going to use my immutable qualities against me, that's discrimination, and it doesn't make it right. And as Ricky Gervais said, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. And also someone else I know says offence is taken, not given. And unfortunately, we're in this world now where, in our industry especially, anything that could be construed as vaguely offensive, it destroys the very meaning of being creative. It takes away our raison d'être. And we have to be, as artists, we have to hold a mirror up to society. We have to satirize it. And we are, at the end of the day, satirists. That's what writing, that's what comedy, that's what acting, that's what, TV and film should be doing, is satirizing, is questioning, is encouraging critical thinking. That's what art should do. And when you try and sanitize everything to the point where it affects my pursuit of happiness in my job, then I'm going to get vocal about that, Keith. And I'm pissed off about it, because I think it's fundamentally wrong. Whereas what's happening in parts of the world, I keep those opinions to myself. But my industry, I'm gonna have something to say about that.
Well, I think you have. We've had an hour now, which is good.
That's gone so fast.
Yeah, that's enough to play with, I think. No, there's some good stuff in there, Rupert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So there we are. Thank you very much to Rupert for his time and his opinions. Some very interesting, very strong opinions voiced there. And I have to put in, for legal purposes, it doesn't necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Humbug Radio or its affiliates or anyone else who happens to be around in the building at the time. Anyway, I will be back again with another I Know That Voice, so I'll speak to you then. Bye.